The final cut is a masterpiece.
But the first draft is a war zone. This is between the frames.
Sweat, blood, and flying drumsticks. Andrew Nyman, played by Miles Teller, is destroying himself on stage during the final performance of Caravan. His teacher, Terence Fletcher, watches with a predatory glare.
This sequence is one of the most electrically intense in modern cinema. It feels like a life or death battle, not a jazz concert. But it almost wasn't. The original assembly of the scene was a more traditional, albeit powerful, music performance.
What happened between these frames to turn a drum solo into a cinematic heart attack?
How did the edit become the instrument of abuse and triumph?
Damien Chazelle shot the finale meticulously.
He had coverage of the entire performance from multiple angles.
The first cut, assembled by editor Tom Cross, was a coherent, well-shot drum solo that served as a cathartic climax.
It showed a great drummer giving a career-defining performance.
And for most films, that would have been enough. But Chazelle felt something was missing.
The crisis point was one of feeling. The cut was watching a great performance, but it wasn't inside Andrew's fractured, obsessive, pain-riddled mind.
It was an objective recording, not a subjective experience.
They had all the pieces of a war film, but they had assembled them like a concert video.
They weren't just showing a battle.
They needed to put the audience in the trenches with Andrew.
The intervention was a radical re-edit by Tom Cross, guided by Chazelle's vision to get inside Andrew's head.
The specific fix was to edit for psychological violence, not for musical continuity. The first step was fracturing time and space. Cross completely abandoned the idea of a spatially coherent performance.
He cut between extreme close-ups of Andrew's bleeding hands, his panicked eyes, the vibrating hi-hat, Fletcher's reacting face, and wide shots of the bewildered audience, all out of traditional sequence.
A single stick dropping might be shown from 3 different angles in rapid succession. This shattered the reality of the concert, plunging us into Andrew's dissociative state.
We are no longer watching from a seat in the audience. We are trapped inside his panic.
Then, there's what you could call the time dementia effect.
They manipulated the tempo of the performance through editing. They would stretch a moment of failure, like when Andrew loses the tempo, by using repeated, jarring cuts.
This makes it feel like an eternity of public humiliation.
We feel the second stretch as Fletcher glares, and the music grinds to a halt. Then, just as suddenly, they accelerate the moments of his technical mastery into a blistering, superhuman flurry of motion and sound. The cuts become faster, sharper, and more aggressive, mirroring the speed of his drumming and the intensity of his focus. Time itself becomes a tool to manipulate our emotional state, to make us feel the agony of failure and the breathless rush of success.
And of course, sound became a weapon. The sound edit was just as aggressive as the picture edit. The mix emphasizes the punishing physicality of the performance.
We hear the grunts of exertion from Andrew, the sickening, wet splats of blood hitting the drumhead, the deafening crashes of the cymbals.
The music itself is no longer just music.
It's an auditory assault, a weapon Fletcher is wielding, and Andrew is desperately trying to conquer.
This editorial approach didn't just show the battle. It made the viewer feel every single blow, every moment of suffocating doubt, and the terrifying, exhilarating ecstasy of potential victory.
It's not just a solo. It's a symphony of violence and ambition.
This transformation defined the film's legacy. Whiplash became a phenomenon, winning the Oscar for Best Film Editing, and for good reason. The unsung hero was Tom Cross, whose work externalized the film's core theme, the brutal, bloody cost of greatness.
The edit itself became the embodiment of Fletcher's abusive teaching philosophy.
It was relentless, it was punishing, and it aimed at breaking down its subject, both the scene and, by extension, the viewer, only to rebuild it into something more powerful, more intense. The creative lesson here is about using the edit to create a somatic experience, something you feel in your body. The goal wasn't just to make the audience hear a great drum solo. It was to make their hearts race, to make their palms sweat, and to make their bodies tense up as if they were the ones in that fight.
So, how can we extract a principle from this?
I call it cut for the body, not just the eye. The Whiplash finale works because the editing bypasses our intellectual appreciation of the music and attacks the viewer's nervous system directly. For creators, the lesson is to always consider the physiological impact of your cuts. What feeling do you want to create in the viewer's gut, their chest, their hands? Align your editing rhythm with that visceral goal, even if it means breaking traditional rules of continuity or pacing. The most memorable sequences are often the ones you feel in your body, not just the ones you perceive with your mind. It's the difference between sharing a story and making someone live it. What other film scene feels physically assaultive because of its editing? Share your pick in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the art of filmmaking, subscribe to Between the Frames. Thanks for watching.